Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Echo at Africa, the environment magazine brought to you by DW, Channels TV and KTN. My name is Sharon Momanyi, coming to you from Kenya's capital of Nairobi, and joining us is my colleague NT in Nigeria. Hello NT.
Thank you, Sharon, and hello everyone. I'm Nel Tai. We're coming to you from the Lufasi Park in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome. Sit back and relax for the next half hour or thereabout as we bring you the latest on environment topics from Africa and Europe. This is what we have coming up today. In Tanzania, donkeys are still being stolen and killed. Farmers and animals welfare campaigners are alarmed. Then a shipyard in Germany is building, guess what, a fully functional green boat out of renewable materials. And in Senegal, we meet women using their solar power to earn money and provide light to their village.
But first, let's start the show here in Nairobi. Kenya has joined its neighbor Rwanda in banning the sale of plastic bags and other plastic products. But that doesn't mean an end to plastic waste. In and around Nairobi, an estimated 250 tons of plastic are generated every day. It can be recycled in different ways. Now, Rajesh Kent, an entrepreneur in the Kenyan capital, has found a way of turning the waste into fuel.
Plastic litters this dump site in Kiambu County. Every year, Kenyans generate 4 million tons of garbage. Lucy Wanjiru is the mother of 4 school-age children. Collecting waste helps her earn an income.
I come here to collect plastic with my friends. This job helps me pay for school fees, food, everything.
On an average day, Lucy and others collect about 12 tons of plastic waste from this site. A truck takes the day's bounty to the Alternative Energy System factory in Thika. Here, the plastic waste will be processed into diesel. Founder Rajesh Kent opened this facility in June 2017.
We decided to embark on a biodiesel project where in Dodoma, Tanzania. Whilst doing the proof of concept, it became abundantly clear that unless we are able to create a value source out of the waste, we would not succeed with the project. That led me to investigation of waste to energy technologies, bringing me, which is where I found this particular technology.
For every 12 tons of plastic, the facility produces 7,000 liters of oil. It's a process that involves many steps. First, the plastic is shredded. After that, it gets heated to remove the moisture. Then, the material is fed into a reactor where it goes through a process called thermal cracking. The extreme heat changes the molecular structure of the plastic and turns the solid material into a liquid. This oil has the same properties as industrial diesel oil. Getting customers to understand the complicated technology was challenging at first.
Our greatest challenge has been in the marketing of our synthetic oil, in that it's taken time for people to be convinced that our oil is a substitute for petroleum industrial diesel.
The diesel oil made from plastic can be used in power plants and industrial furnaces. Steel manufacturer Prime Steel uses it to heat their ovens. The synthetic diesel is more expensive than local petroleum oil, but factory owner Indira Patel is convinced it's worth it.
Using this oil, synthetic oil, is better than diesel because we do not have smoke. And here where our factory is located, it's around the place where there are many houses, buildings where people do not like to have smokes.
Though the price competition remains fierce, Rajesh Kent remains committed to growing his business. With millions of tons of plastic discarded every year, he hopes his plan will work.
Now we head to Burkina Faso. It's one of the world's poorest countries. Still, it is very active in fighting against climate change. For example, the country recently inaugurated West Africa's biggest solar power plant. Our reporter met up with Burkina Faso's environment minister to get his take on the current state of the environment there.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Ministre.
Bonjour.
Merci. Très bien même.
Ok, vous êtes la bienvenue. Si c'est l'Allemagne qui m'invite, je serai là.
Concrètement,
how does climate change affect Burkina Faso?
Comme tous les pays sahéliens, le Burkina Faso ne fait
Like
pas
all the other countries in the Sahel region, we're also experiencing the effects of climate change.
des effets. Donc aujourd'hui,
Burkina Faso is
que
no
ça
exception
soit
there.
toutes les questions liées à la
That
dégradation.
involves issues from soil degradation to flooding to pollution.
Toutes les questions d'ailleurs
We're victims of climate disruption.
de ces dérèglements climatiques.
Selon vous, quelles
Which
sont les
measures
mesures
do
à
you have to
prendre
take
pour
to tackle
diminuer
climate
les
change?
effets du changement climatique, par exemple la désertification?
Le Burkina, quand vous prenez notre situation,
The
au
situation
Sahel,
in the
vous avez
Sahel in the northern part of Burkina Faso is that desertification is expanding and degradation is progressing quickly.
bien sûr, amène les déplacements.
That's what drives population migration. Burkina Faso is engaged in revaluating these areas. There are a number of projects in the northern part of Burkina seeking to maintain populations in areas with soil degradation.
What do you expect from the international community in this area?
Aujourd'hui, nous ne sommes pas responsables.
We're not responsible for climate disruption. We're suffering from it. So we're asking the international community for climate justice and support for developing countries to deal with the consequences.
L'ensemble des questions. Que
This
ça soit
involves
les
a range of
questions
questions. Questions of adaptation and mitigation, but also involving the transfer of technologies. To cope with the effects of climate change today, we need appropriate technologies, but we also need to be able to adapt.
Le Burkina Faso est quand même cité un des
In
pays
Europe,
en Europe
Burkina
comme un
Faso
modèle
is
pour le
often viewed as a
développement
pioneer
dans le
in
domaine
green
de l'énergie
technology.
durable et technologie
How are
verte
you
et tout
trying
ça.
to make this
Comment
transition in
médite
your country?
cette transition dans votre pays?
Je pense que c'est un engagement politique.
I think it involves political commitments at the highest levels.
Le président du Faso
The president of Burkina Faso is very involved in the green transition to renewables and a green economy.
adapté non seulement
Today, no matter what they say, Burkina still has the highest electricity costs in the region,
quoi qu'on dise,
and
nous
our
avons
rate of energy coverage in the country is still very low.
le coût le plus élevé dans la sous-région. Vous savez également
We
que
don't have many energy resources, but we have the sun, and we think that's a great opportunity.
le taux est très faible. Mais nous n'avons pas les ressources énergétiques, mais nous avons le soleil.
The president has just inaugurated the largest solar center in Western Africa at Zagtouli.
La plus grande centrale solaire en Afrique de l'Ouest, à Zatouli. Et je pense
That's
que
an
déjà,
opportunity.
c'est une opportunité.
We're seeking to combine solar energy with thermal power. We won't withdraw completely from thermal energy.
Bien sûr, en combinaison, bien sûr, avec l'énergie
We're going to combine the two.
Nous ne pouvons pas dire que nous allons nous désengager totalement.
The idea is to provide the entire country with electricity.
Au Burkina, de pouvoir avoir l'électricité sur l'ensemble du territoire.
Dernière question. Vous avez maintenant
You said there's an
mentionné qu'il y a
important
quand
link
même
between
un
poverty
fort
and the
lien
environment.
entre la pauvreté et l'environnement.
What do you mean
Dans
by
quel
that?
sens?
Nous vivons pratiquement.
Our
les-
resources in Burkina Faso are natural resources. The environment minister in Burkina Faso today is called the Minister for the Environment, Green Business and Climate Change. By choosing green business, we want to manage natural resources in a rational and fair way to ensure that they're better distributed, because we're also thinking of future generations. Burkina Faso is convinced that there's a lot left to explore in the environmental sector and that it represents a real opportunity for us because it allows us to create new jobs and generate income for our population.
Revenu à la population.
Je vous remercie beaucoup pour l'interview.
C'est nous qui vous remercions. Voilà. Merci.
So a firm commitment to environmental protection there. All the best with that. And now we move on to the world of boating. Sailboats and yachts might make you think of open oceans and nature, but in fact, they are real environmental polluters. They're made of largely of glass fiber, which is reinforced plastic that uses lots of oil and energy to manufacture. A shipbuilder in Bremen, Germany, has found a way to make more environmentally friendly boats. NT knows more.
Yes, Sharon. He claims that his boats are made of 90% renewable materials like hemp and cork. I'm a bit skeptical that these boats are as durable and as safe as the conventional ones, but let's go take a look at these boats.
The materials being cut here in the Green Boats workshop come mostly from nature, things like cork and paper. The boat's protective coating gets a finishing soak in a resin linseed oil mixture, although some mineral oil is still indispensable for now.
As soon as it's hardened, it's environmentally friendly. You could even eat off it. But before the individual components have reacted with each other, I wouldn't recommend that.
More than 75% of this lightweight, one-person sailing dinghy consists of renewable materials. The top coat is made of flax, a plant fiber also used in linen clothing. Friedrich Daimann tells us that flax is lightweight and sturdy, just like the layer of paper honeycomb beneath it.
It's moistened and then stretched so that it really gets this honeycomb structure. Paper honeycomb is always used where something has to be both extremely lightweight and super rigid, basically only in sport boats. The associated risk is that if it's damaged, water can get in.
That's why the boat's gunwales are insulated with water-resistant cork. The Green Bente's hull is made entirely of cork. It's 7.5 meters long, the yard's largest model to date. For the past 2 seasons, it's been put through its paces, like here on Lake Constance in South Germany. At 68,000 euros, it's somewhat more expensive than boats built with traditional materials. But then, it's environmentally friendly, and the outer hull is just as durable as standard fiberglass reinforced plastic hulls. It's an interest shared by researchers in the Biological Materials Group at Hochschule Bremen University of Applied Sciences. This whole segment is undergoing a stress test. It shows that the composite made of flax and cork is extremely durable. Even under tremendous pressure, a ship's hull would not fracture, it would only deform.
When we test materials such as flax, hemp, or quina for bending, we find that in terms of density, they have better characteristics than fiberglass composites when it comes to deformation or load bearing.
But for that, you need special breeds of plant, like this flax, with extremely sturdy fibers. You can even make skis with them.
When they're bent, they spring back into shape really well.
At Green Boats, they're convinced the future belongs to natural fibers, even if Friedrich Daimann still relies on a mineral oil component for the top coat, rather than purely organic resin.
Those kinds of resins are very hard to work with. They're very sensitive to moisture, and they're not really very durable. That means there's a danger that when a boat's been in the water for a number of years, it could start to rot.
There's not a trace of rot on the Green Bente, and it's set to sail the coming season as well. It won't be one of a kind for much longer. Friedrich Daimann plans to build 5 more of this model in 2018.
And now our weekly series, Doing Your Bit. This time we're in West Africa, to be precise, in eastern Senegal. Rural communities there have relatively little electricity, but plenty of sun. As in other parts of Africa, people here had the idea of harvesting the solar energy to provide households with small amounts of electricity. And thanks to the financial dividend, some communities, yes indeed, have made an environmentally friendly business out of the venture. Let's take a look at how they're doing their bit.
Lack of electricity is a major problem in Senegal. Less than a third of the rural population has access to it. An NGO and the women of Bidyankoto have come up with a solution. Solar energy kits. Almost 100 people in the region have already bought solar lamps. And those who can't afford them can get microcredits or pay in installments. Some villagers got together to buy a fridge. And now make a living selling cold drinks. Others bought solar energy kits so that children can do their homework in the evening. New sources of income, better education, thanks to green energy.
Do you like that? If you are also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. Hashtag doing your bit. We share your stories.
Many areas in Africa are drying out. In the Sahel region, the desert's encroaching at an alarming rate on the communities. Nigeria is one of the nations most at risk, with 11 of its northern states at the front line of desertification. Experts say the Sahara is moving southward at an alarming rate.
We're in the village of Gandhi in the far north of Nigeria. It's not far from the Sahara, and the desert is advancing southwards at an estimated 600 meters per year. It's already started encroaching on Gandhi and its surroundings. This village is home to Dahiru. The farmer has spent his entire life here. He tells us he's worried about the growing threat from the desert in the north, and his annual harvest is dwindling year after year.
Last year, I think I can just approximately, last year 400 bags.
How many do you think you'll get this year?
This year, approximately 300. I lost Gaskia of 25% of last year's crop. The encroachment is more than this. And we are just starting. That's what if you can be able to go there yourself. One time when you go to Maradon, try and visit Kaya. If you visit Kaya, they will show you how the desert is encroaching annually. At least more than 3 kilometers annually.
The farmer hires herdsmen to graze their cattle on his land so he can collect the manure for fertilizer, and he's doing more to ward off the desert sands.
We, as individuals, as farmers, are planting in our farms just to reduce the level of encroachment. That's all what we can do. And you see, all these neem trees are planted by us.
Nigeria has been fighting desertification for decades. The government has a special budget for forestry programs and has planted 200 kilometers of tree barriers in recent years.
Every year we ensure that plantation takes place throughout the year. We don't just plant trees during the rainy season. Even during the dry season, we irrigate trees.
The cluster of trees are planted at designated locations to hold back the desert winds that carry the sand. But residents of many rural communities continue to cut down trees to use the wood for charcoal burning. Desertification displaces communities and threatens people's livelihoods. It's estimated that Nigeria loses more than $5 billion a year as a result. More sustainable solutions are needed to successfully hold back the advancing desert and the destruction it causes.
And now to a more disheartening topic, poaching in Africa, but not the well-known illegal trade in ivory or rhino horn. Another species surprisingly threatened by thieves and hunters, donkeys. Why is that so, Sharon?
Well, donkey skin is very often used in Asia, for example, to produce medical and beauty products. Demand is huge, so no wonder that some farmers are losing their donkeys to thieves. And that's where one animal welfare organization comes in to help the donkeys and their owners.
This is Mpwapwa in central Tanzania. Hundreds of donkeys have been stolen here in the past month. The Mahona family has also lost 2. They found the remains a few kilometers away in the bushes, poisoned and skinned.
Big donkey skins fetch between 150 and 180,000 shillings. That's up to $80. So donkeys are being stolen or killed. This is a big problem for the whole community here.
Donkeys are desert animals perfectly adapted to the hot, dry climate, and their use has little impact on the environment. As pack animals, they're very valuable to farming communities. Simon Pope is from the UK-based animal welfare organization, the Donkey Sanctuary. The British activist is investigating and recording what's happening here. Donkeys, he says, are disappearing across Africa. Many countries fear that entire populations could be lost within just a few years.
We hear that the Tanzanian donkeys are ending up in the abattoir in Kenya. Are there still donkeys disappearing from around here?
The reason for the rapid decline is ijao, a traditional Chinese medicine made of substances extracted from donkey hides. A kilo of it sells for over 300 euros. Ijao is an ingredient in a wide range of beauty products. It's said to stop wrinkles, for example. Africa's donkey population is a key target for the skin trade. Thousands of animals are slaughtered there every day. Together with partners in Tanzania and other African countries, the Donkey Sanctuary wants to put an end to the gruesome business.
So really what we're trying to do is trying to get those case studies, tell those stories about individuals who've been affected as a way of putting pressure not just on the governments but on people internationally to be able to try and create better rules, better protection and actually to halt the trade.
Many farmers are now trying to sell their donkeys, even below market value, as they fear losing the animals to gangs of thieves. Women in particular suffer when their animals are stolen. They often depend on donkeys to fetch water or transport goods to market. In an attempt to protect its animals and farmers, Tanzania has finally banned the trade. But experts say that's just driven it underground and that it's now organized by the same networks that smuggle rhino horn and ivory. Pope is heading to the site of a donkey abattoir not far from Dodoma. It supposedly had to close down after the ban. These images were taken earlier this year while the facility was still up and running. Over 4 years, up to 500 donkeys were slaughtered here every day. The offal was buried. A local animal welfare organization says that poisoned the soil and polluted groundwater in the area. But when he arrives this time, Pope isn't allowed out of the car. Is the site still active after all?
But we've arrived here, I think, imagining that this was going to be a pretty much abandoned abattoir, something with a door that we could just push and go in and open. Instead, what we found is that it's still got armed guards on the gate. The officials that we've spoken to here are extremely nervous. They are very, very reticent to allow us to go in and have basically told us we can't go in. So if you kind of add all those different pieces together, I am pretty despondent, if you like, that something is going on in there which shouldn't be going on, involving donkeys.
Yona Mahona tells us a middleman made him an offer for the family's 2 remaining donkeys. He was willing to pay $80. Although the trade is officially banned in Tanzania, donkeys are still disappearing here in large numbers.
I hope the advocacy groups and the government will continue with initiatives to ban the trade in the country, because otherwise we face more losses, and soon we won't be able to do our work here.
The locals are starting to build fenced compounds to keep the animals safe at night. But if the ban is not strictly enforced and the sector remains unregulated, donkeys will continue to be slaughtered in the bush and exported illegally. In the long run, making life worse for thousands of families.
How cruel and unnecessary. I hope this terrible trade will be ended soon. And so our African-European journey draws to a close here today. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll see you again next time, and bye from Nairobi.
For more on Eco at Africa, you can check out our website, which will be showing on your screen, and you can have your say on our social media pages, especially if you're involved in environmental activities. We can tell your story. I'm Neo Taegbe. Bye-bye from Lagos, Nigeria.